Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we will be addressing the different correctional institutions in the Philippines. We have 7 different correctional institutions in the Philippines. But first of all, what is correctional or penal institution? It means any penitentiary, state farm, reformatory, jail, prison, house of correction, a place for the custody of a persons under sentence for offenses, awaiting trial or sentence for offenses, under arrest for an offense. Means a place designated by law for confinement of persons arrested for, charged with, or convicted of an offense. A building where people are kept as punishment for a crime, which is a prison.
San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm, located at Region 9, Zamboanga City, San Ramon. According to historical accounts, the San Ramon Prison was established in southern Zamboanga on August 21, 1870, through a royal decree promulgated in 1869. Established during the tenure of Governor General Ramon Blanco, whose patron saint the prison was named after. The facility was originally established for persons convicted of political crimes. Considered the oldest penal facility in the country, prisoners in San Ramon were required to do agricultural work. During the Spanish-American War in 1898, the prisoners in San Ramon were hastily released and the buildings destroyed. In 1907, the American administration re-established the prison farm. In 1912, General John Pershing, Chief Executive of the Department of Mindanao and Sulu, classified the institution as a prison and penal colony and therein confined people sentenced by the courts under his jurisdiction. Under Pershing's supervision, several buildings with a capacity for 600 prisoners were constructed. After several years, the colony became practically self-supporting with 75,000 coconut trees which were planted at the beginning of Pershing's administration, contributing to the colony's self-sufficiency. Aside from coconuts, rice, corn, papaya, and other crops were also cultivated. On November 1, 1905, Reorganization Act No. 1407 was approved, creating the Bureau of Prisons under the Department of Commerce and Police, integrating the old Bilibid Prison, San Ramon Penal Colony, and Iwahig Penal. The Philippine Coconut Authority took over management of the coconut farm from San Ramon. Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm, located at Puerto Princesa, Palawan. This facility was established during the American occupation. It was, however, during the Spanish regime that Puerto Princesa was designated as a place where offenders sentenced to banishment were exiled. A specific area of Puerto Princesa was selected as the site for a correctional facility. The American military carved out a prison facility in the rainforest of Puerto Princesa. The institution had for its first superintendent Lieutenant George Wolfe, a member of the U.S. Expeditionary Force, who later became the first prisons director. Governor Luke Wright authorized the establishment of a penal colony in the province of Palawan on November 16, 1904. This penal settlement, which originally comprised an area of 22 acres, originally served as a depository for prisoners who could not be accommodated at the Bilibid Prison in Manila. In 1906, however, the Department of Commerce and Police moved to turn the institution into the center of a penal colony supervised in accordance with the trends at the time. Through the department's efforts, the Philippine Commission of the United States government passed Act No. 1723 in 1907, classifying the settlement as a penal institution. The settlement was at first beset by attempted escapes, but under the supervision of Colonel John R. White of the Philippine Constabulary, who would become superintendent of Iwahig in 1906, the colony became a successful settlement. A merit system was devised for prisoners and vocational activities were offered. This included farming, fishing, forestry, carpentry, hospital, and paramedical work. Prisoners could choose the vocational activities they wanted. In 1955, Administrative number or Order number 20 was promulgated by the President and implemented by the Secretary of Justice and the Secretary of the Agriculture and Natural Resources. This order allowed the distribution of colony lands for cultivation by deserving colonists. The order also contained a list of qualifications for colonists who wished to apply for a lot to cultivate the conditions for the settler's stay in his land. Loan requirements and marketing of the settlers' produce. Lots granted did not exceed 6 hectares. On August 16, 1959, a committee was created by President Carlos P. Garcia to study the state of national prisons. Accordingly, prisoners in Iwahig were divided into two groups, the settlers and the colonists. The settlers are those engaged in farming for their own benefit. They are the ones whose applications for land to cultivate have been approved. The government furnishes the land and initial requirements for tools, dwelling, and beasts of burden. They are required to reimburse expenditures incurred for their maintenance and that of their families out of the product of their farms. Upon their release from the colony, they receive whatever amount of money they have credited in their favor. After deducting the obligations they have, Iwahig is subdivided into 4 zones or districts. Central Subcolony with an area of 14,700 hectares, Santa Lucia with 9,685 hectares, Montible with 8,000 hectares, and Inagawan with 13,000 hectares. Recent developments and presidential proclamations have dramatically reduced the size of the prison reservation of Iwahig.
Good morning, classmates, especially to you, Sir De La Torre. I am Frisco Sakin III, and today I'll be addressing the New Bilibid Prison. New Bilibid Prison, located at National Capital Region, January 22, 1941, officially opened at Muntinlupa City. The New Bilibid Prison in Muntinlupa City, Philippines, is the main insular penitentiary designed to house the prison population of the Philippines. It is maintained by the Bureau of Corrections under the Philippine Department of Justice. As of October 2004, it has an inmate population of 16,747. The penitentiary had an initial land area of 551 hectares. 104 hectares of the facility were transferred to a housing project of the Department of Justice. The Bureau of Corrections has its headquarters in the NBP Reservation. The old Bilibid Prison, then known as Cárcel y Presidio Correctional, occupied a rectangular piece of land which was part of the Mayhalik estate in the heart of Manila. The old prison was established on June 25, 1865, under a Spanish royal decree. It is divided into 2 sections, the carcel sections, which could accommodate 600 inmates, and the Presidio, which could accommodate 527 prisoners. Due to increasing crime, the Philippine government enacted Commonwealth Act No. 67 and a new prison was built in Muntinlupa on 551 hectares of land at an area considered at that time to be remote. Construction began in 1936 with a budget of 1 million pesos. In 1940, the prisoners, equipment, and facilities were transferred to the new prison. The remnants of the old facility was used by the City of Manila as its detention center, then known as Manila City Jail. In 1941, the new facilities was officially named the New Bilibid Prison.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, especially to you, Mr. De La Torre. Before anything else, I'm Trisha Pauline S. Salazar from BS Criminology 1 Charlie. Today, I'll be addressing the 4th and the 5th correctional institution in the Philippines, which are the Davao Prison and Penal Farm, or also known as DAPECO. Davao Prison and Penal Farm, or DAPECOL, located at Region 11 Panabo, Davao del Norte, originally known as Davao Penal Colony or DAPECOL. The Davao Prison and Penal Farm was established on January 21, 1932 under Act No. 3732, comprising 5,212 hectares of land under Proclamation No. 414, issued by Governor General Dwight F. Davis on October 7, 1931. It was placed under the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Corrections purposely to train and reform inmates and to arm them with vocational skills and higher literacy. One of those who efficiently managed the colony, in fact, the first to oversee its development, was Paulino T. Santos, a brilliant general who headed the Philippine Army in 1936 and after whom the former municipality of Buan, later Dadingas, was renamed before the Japanese invaded Davao on December 20, 1941. Many of the prisoners, some of them originally came from Cabanatuan prison camp, suffered from tropical disease and malnutrition. Others died in the hands of their captors, aside from the damage that severely hit the colony's abaca plantation as a result of the war. The government effort to rebuild the country was focused in attracting the private sector support in developing public properties through lease. Notwithstanding this new scheme, on January 23, 1951, the Cabinet, upon recommendation of the board liquidators, approved the continuing development of the 2,500-hectare abaca project under the DAPECOL. During its early years, DAPECOL was host to an experimental freshwater farming for gourami, a Japanese fish species. The project supplied, in part, the protein needs of inmates. Helping General Santos pursue this initiative was Lieutenant Cipriano S. Villafuerte, who introduced hito or catfish, fingerlings, and edible frogs or culture from Luzon in the penal colony to help subsist inmates in their food production efforts. Sablayan Prison and Penal Farms. It is located at Region 4B, Sablayan, Occidental Mindoro. Nearer to Manila than other penal colonies, the Sablayan Penal Colony is located in Occidental Mindoro and relatively new. Established on September 26, 1954 by virtue of Presidential Proclamation No. 72, the penal colony has a total land area of approximately 16,190 hectares. Prison record shows that the first colonists and employees arrived in Sablayan on January 15, 1955.
Itong kolony ito ay in-establish formally noong January 15, 1955. Na araw na yun na nag-set foot dito ang pitong opisyalis ng Bureau of Prisons at 68 inmates galing sa Iwaig Prison and Penal Farm at isang inmate galing sa New Bilibid Prison. At ito ay pinanguna ni Superintendent Candido L. Baguisan at ang sponsor director of prisons noon na si Alfredo M. Bunye.
Several buildings have been constructed, including the colonies' dormitories, employee quarters, guardhouse, schoolhouse, chapel, recreation hall, and post exchange. 3 sub-colonies were later organized. One is a reservation which this day remains part of a protected rainforest. Another is in a coastal area. The third was used by the national government as a relocation site for refugees from the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in 1991. Sablayan Prison is a facility where prisoners from NBP are brought for decongestion purposes. It follows the same colony standards as other penal farms. Unlike any other of the unusual penal colony, the prisoners here are almost enjoying their freedom. Instead of being locked down inside concrete structures with metal bars, they can roam around the area without so much restrictions. They are also made to till the land area so as to have their own supply of at least basic food requirements for during this stay.
Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm ay isang open institution, one of the 7 penal institutions in the Bureau of Corrections, the whole Philippines. So, Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm is a unique institution dahil it is very rich in the biodiversity. Maraming samot-saring buhay ilang, mga halaman at mga hayop sa kagubatan. na dito lamang matagpuan sa Sablayan, Occidental Mindoro. Ako po si Mr. Wmsu ay isang chairman ng IBAM's Important Biodiversity Monitoring System na tumutulong upang ma-evaluate at mapangalagaan ang samatsaring buhay at lalo na ang kanilang tirahan, ang kagubatan ng Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm.
Ang mga distinctive quality na itong penal farm na wala sa ibang operating prison and penal farm ay ang water supplies. Mayroon na kaming bagong water supplies, rice and corn production, ang aming conference room na bago, ang aming hospital ay napakabago, napakaganda.
Actually, ang may pagmamalaki ng nito sa mga ating mga turista, both local at saka po yung ating foreign tourists ay ang unang-una ang kagandaan ng lugar, specifically yung ating kabundukan ng Siburan na kung saan ay makikita ang intact vegetation nito at ang higit sa lahat yung Libao Lake. Makikita niyo dito yung aming mga pananim na ang pawang gumagawa niyan ay ating mga bilanggo.
Prisoners are allowed to build their nipa huts, and since it is a mix of different religion, churches and worship houses were constructed to cater various religions of the prisoners. Some inmates were allowed to have their wife or husband to live with them inside the colony. This is evident by some playground around the area. The penal provide also an access road to vehicles from Sablayan going to Abra de Ilog Port.
Reform programs about health and welfare, work and livelihood, sports and recreation, religious activities, and education and behavioral modification has been the priority of Basugi Sub-Farm.
Ang effort po ng programa ay ma-rehabilitate yung mga drug dependents ng Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm. Dito po ay nagkakaroon sila ng mga aktibidades kung saan nagkakaroon ng pagbabago sa kanilang mga pag-uugali.
Hi, hello, mabuhay. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, especially to you, Mr. De La Torre. By the way, I'm Shaina P. Sagid from BS Criminology 1 Charlie. Today, I'll be addressing the topic about Leyte Regional Prison. Leyte Regional Prison, which is located at Region 8 Abuyog, Leyte. Last and youngest penal facility to be built, Abuyog, Leyte, established in January 16, 1973, Proclamation Number 1101 by President Marcos. Leyte Regional Prison, located at Region 8 Abuyog, Leyte. The youngest among the Bureau of Corrections penal colonies, the Leyte Regional Prison, LRP, was created by virtue of PD number 28 and was established on January 16, 1973 under Presidential Decree number 1101. It is located in Barangay Mabagna, Abuyog, Leyte, some 66 kilometers from Abuyog town proper. It is situated on a 861.66 hectares forested area on top of a mountain surrounded by mountain ranges. It is also composed of two communities, the enclosed community and the open community. Prisoners who are in the enclosed community are those who belong to the medium and maximum security, while prisoners who are in the open community belong to the minimum security. As of March 19, 1997, there are about 980 prisoners housed in this regional prison, with 204 at the maximum security, the 550 at the medium security, and 226 at the minimum security prison. The prison admits convicted offenders from Region 6 and from the National Penitentiary in Muntinlupa. Correctional Institute for Women. Correctional Institution for Women, located at Mandaluyong, Metro Manila. November 27, 1929. Act 3579, Welfareville, Mandaluyong, 50 building, total land area of 18 hectares. Latest CIW was constructed in Davao on September 18, 2007. Correctional Institution for Women, located at Mandaluyong, Metro Manila. In a report dated January 22, 1959, submitted to a committee created by the President of the Philippines, it was noted that before a separate building was constructed, especially for women prisoners, all female convicts were confined at the old Bilibid prison on Azgaraga Street, Manila. The male prisoners were confined in dormitories near the women's quarters. Because of these conditions, vocational activities of the women prisoners were limited to embroidery. When they became ill, the women were confined in a separate building which served as a hospital with the nurses and prison physicians. When women prisoners needed surgery, they were operated at the Bilibid prison. After the operation, they were transferred to the infirmary for convalescence. Prison authorities were aware of the conditions that the women prisoners had to endure. Consequently, the transfer of the women to a separate site became inevitable. After a series of negotiations started by Prison Director Ramon Victorio, the Philippine legislature passed Republic Act No. 3579 in November 1929. It authorized the transfer of all women inmates to a building in Welfareville at Mandaluyong, Rizal, and appropriated 60,000 for the move. On February 14, 1931, the women prisoners were transferred from the old Bilibid prison to the building especially constructed for them. Its old name, Women's Prison, was changed to Correctional Institution for Women. This was in keeping with emerging trends in phenology, which emphasized correction rather than punishment. Convicts were brought back into the social mainstream, adjusted, and rehabilitated with a better outlook in life. The building has a central courtyard with trees and flowering plants. The prisoners' vocational activities were expanded to include poultry and piggery, as well as cultivation of crops, flowers, and fruits.
They greet you with smiles. They're inmates awaiting sentencing. Here, they're called vacacionistas. The warden tells us if you really act like a vacacionista here, you will be treated like one on vacation. The place looks more like a village than a correctional facility. As you can see here, instead of jail cells, they have these colorful cottages or villas, and instead of steel bars, they have decorative windows. There's an area where talented inmates give music lessons to visiting children, an art class. Even some ladies are getting a manicure and pedicure.
Anumang rehabilitative measures ay hindi siya effective unless we treat our clientele humanely.
83% of the inmates are involved in drug-related cases. Once brought in, they're classified into the newbies, the oldies who are given more freedom to go around, Muslims are in the same cottage, the pregnant are in another, even artists are grouped together. They have baking lessons, bag making, and sewing. They're sold in some malls. For each item sold, the maker gets more than 100 pesos.
Mo sa kanila na you trusted them, sila na mismo, makasama nila nagbabantayan.
So far, no inmate has tried anything serious. If they do, their so-called vacation may just be cut short.
From 1 Charlie, Shaina Sagid, Crim 101. And that's it all for today. Thank you for listening. We are also hoping that you've learned something. From 1 Charlie, Group 13, Crim 101.